Alexander the Great was an exceptional military mind, conquering and claiming empires under Macedonia's rule across a vast stretch of Asia. Notoriously undefeated, he was even referred to by many as a god. After a banquet and short illness, his life and reign on a massive empire was suddenly cut short, creating one of the oldest mysteries in history. Over 2,000 years later, the exact cause of death remains unknown. Did Alexander the Great die from a simple illness, or did the evidence and his connections suggest something more sinister? With a sea of questionable reports and in a time rampant with propaganda and rumors, how do we discern truth from speculation? To develop a theory regarding the root cause of Alexander the Great's death, we must pick apart the reports of his final days and gather evidence through personal accounts. 2,000 years have passed since the end of this world-altering leader's life, and not a single contemporaneous source survives detailing Alexander's death. The most recent accounts weren't written until 2 to 3 centuries later by historians. Many of them reference the royal diary, a court diary lost at time describing Alexander the Great's death as a gradual onset of fever, progressive inability to walk leading to his eventual death without offering a cause of his demise. With this information being the only known evidence, historians dive into their own diverging interpretations and perspectives, making the root cause of Alexander the Great's death the mystery that remains unsolved today. Can we trust any of these ancient accounts? How can we distinguish reliable ones from the ones created purely for speculation and drama? According to an academic journal published under the Classical Quarterly, in an attempt to strip away some of the layers of fabrication from our confused record through rigorous study of varying accounts, Bosworth concluded that propaganda is at the root of all accounts of Alexander's death. With that in mind, skepticism and awareness was necessary when examining history. The Romance of Alexander the Great, the most widely read ancient novel narrating Alexander's life, describes his death as an elaborate plan of poison by the son of Antipater and the members of Alexander's court who, according to the book, longed for material possessions and were wary of Alexander, greatly dismayed by his overweening pride. The Alexander romance, like many other sources, introduces the popular tool of the time, poison, as the possible cause for Alexander the Great's death. The author of Poisons and Poisoning Among the Romans states that poison played a prominent part at the imperial court. Poisoning became so common that those who were in inevitable positions of wealth and influence could not take any food or drink with definite assurance of safety. Could poison, however, line up with the symptoms mentioned in the royal diary? Did the members of Alexander's court have the motive and means to plot and murder him? Alexander the Great, with his large influence and power, had many enemies, furthering the probability of a plot against him. Alexander's campaigns and conquests are known not only for their genius, but their brutality and ruthlessness. He massacred and showed little mercy for those fighting against him. The idea of his inner circle devising a plan to murder him is supported by his brutal orders on those closest to him. Arrian's Anabasis of Alexander illustrates that Alexander sent orders to Media to Cleander to kill Parmenion. This action made his friends fearful, as they thought that not even those most closely trusted would be secure from Alexander. Now that we've established a solid motive for murder, could poison line up with the gradual illness described in the diary? Most commentators who claim against the theory of poison point out that most would cause death in 1 to 2 days rather than the 10 to 12 described in historical accounts. There is a plant poison, however, that was commonly used in ancient times and could produce symptoms like the ones Alexander displayed. Researcher Shep and Associates published an in-depth article under clinical toxicology exploring different types of poisons to reveal the most likely contributor to his demise. The duration of his illness and the reported clinical effects Alexander suffered, as described in the romance, suggest extracts from Veratrum album may have been responsible for his death. Veratrum can be fermented as a wine, which could have been given to Alexander during the course of the banquet. Initial symptoms can include substernal pain with rapid onset of hypotension and bradycardia, which, coupled with muscular weakness, may explain why he was so weak but remained sufficiently conscious to acknowledge others. Even Bosworth, the author irrefutably determining all the ancient sources to be rooted in propaganda, states that complete proof is impossible, but the probability is that Alexander was murdered. All of this points to a successful coup d'etat cleanly and ruthlessly executed. Alexander the Great was murdered by poison. The evidence and sources point to this conclusion. There was no trial, no confession, just an empire divided and a death that remains shrouded in doubt to this day.